Hi everyone, welcome to the Power of a Hobby. I'm Don Fenton, your host, and today I am delighted to be joined by Matt Stait. Hi Matt, how are you?
Hi Dom, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on for a chat.
No, love it. And we've been trying to organise this for a little while. We actually spoke about a year ago about doing this podcast, so I'm really excited that I've finally got you on. So, as I start all the other interviews, Matt, so what does the power of a hobby mean to you?
Well, that's a really sort of interesting question and a very deep question with a lot of different thoughts that go in on that. But essentially, I firmly believe that we should all have something that belongs to us, that is a representation of us and part of us, and it's something that we do to express ourselves and to just be who we are. So, you can be a mum or a dad or a son or a daughter or a boss or, you can be all of those things, but the hobby is just for you and only for you. And so that's, that I think is really important, and why I think that everybody really should have one in one guise or another. I think it's vitally important to us as individuals.
No, complete agree. And we talk a lot about identity and things like that. And actually hobbies do become part of your identity and who you are, as you say. Just in terms of, obviously we've had a brief chat, and obviously I know your background. Do you just want to explain to people what you do and what your background is as well?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So a long time ago, when I was very small, I noticed martial arts in the world and the various guises of that. There were TV shows on at the time like Kung Fu with David Carradine, and on Saturday afternoon wrestling, you had a couple of Iron Fist was one, a couple of wrestlers that would do like Kung Fu moves. And I fell in love with it as a kid. I was just, in awe of it. And it took me a long time to properly get into it. It was a few years later, I had a few false starts, but eventually I did get into it, and it became far more than just a hobby. It went from hobby to lifestyle, to how I saw myself, to business, to my whole world really, and that's brought us up to this current day. I mean, I just became so immersed in it that it overtook everything that I did and overshadowed everything that I did. I would quit jobs over it. I would take jobs because of it, because it allowed me to train in the times that I wanted to. Relationships ended because of it. I mean, it was all consuming for quite a while there. And obviously I went through the levels with regards to, competing and things like that, right up to the world stage where I've got gold medals and things. So yeah, it basically just took over everything for a long time.
So, and in terms of, are you still involved with it now? Do you have you're still doing some instructorship and things like that as well, aren't you? Have you got your own venue and things?
I've got my own full-time gym. So I've got my own full-time gym. I teach on seminars all around the world. I teach on all the biggest sort of UK shows and things. I've got online courses available, lots of written stuff available. So yeah, I'm still very, very active and very much part of it. And it has transitioned into a business, but that business is still my hobby. You'll still find me twice a week on the mats as a student training under other instructors, just the same as everyone else.
Yeah, I love that. And I think actually we talk about people learning, and actually if you don't, I see a lot of people and they go, oh, I can't learn anymore. And actually you're proof that actually you'll always learn.
Oh, that never ends. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what level you get to, there's always more you can learn.
Yeah, of course there is. And you can side shift and all sorts of things. It's not to blow my own trumpet, but I've literally just gone off and done a master's degree at 51 years of age.
Wow.
So there's no question that we can all still learn, and it's great for us to do so. I think it's one of the things, because there's physical fitness and then there's mental fitness, isn't there? And like the physical muscles, we've got to exercise that bad boy. Otherwise it's going to freeze up and become useless.
Yeah. And did I hear right that you're just currently working on your third book?
It's the fifth book. I've got
just to throw more of them in. It's fine.
Yeah, so there's I've got 3 on the go. This is the one that I'm trying to finish.
That's right. That's where the 3 came in. That's right.
Yeah. So this will actually be the 5th one that's out. So yeah, and again that started off as a hobby, as a sideline, as something that I enjoyed doing, and I did it for my own purpose and my own pleasure, and that just sort of expanded out. So So yeah, so that's another side of the things that I do, and obviously as you age and as you get a little bit older, the way you do things and what you do and what you enjoy doing sort of changes. I mean, you won't see me in a nightclub anymore, you know, knocking back shots and chasing ladies.
You have to find something else to move forward to, don't you?
You do indeed, yes.
So we've obviously got the martial arts, we've got the writing, but actually you're not going to talk about them. So Matt, in terms of a hobby now, why don't you tell my listeners what hobby you're involved in at the moment? Okay,
well, I hate to be that person, you know, and stereotype myself in such a manner, but I've got no real choice. I've recently decided that I'm going to start to work on my gardening skills and grow my own veg and try and become a bit more self-sufficient like that. So we bought a fantastic property last year, which has got some lovely space in it, and so yeah, so the puzzle now is trying to figure out how all that works, because it turns out that I've been looking at people doing that for many years as I've been driving around and, you know, seeing people pottering. That's what they call it, technical term, pottering. And I've been seeing that, but I had no idea of the complexities of it, and it genuinely is complex. There's so much to learn.
And it is amazing, because you see people do it a lot, and you just walk past, don't you? You don't even think about what they're having to go through or what they're having to. So is this, so as a newish hobby, so how long would you say you've now been starting to, did you ever do any gardening as a child? Did you ever do it? It literally is.
Well, I lived for a very long time right in smack bang in the middle of inner city Bristol, for, you know, and I traveled an awful lot with my work and things. So I couldn't, even if I wanted to, but I did occasionally try the odd sort of house plant, pot plant, and they would literally commit suicide when they saw me coming. They would just keel over and die, knowing that they would save themselves some time in the long run. And so I'm not green fingered, you know, I'm really not. But the opportunity is now presented, and it seems like a good thing to try and do.
So in terms of, so we're right, the nice thing is we're right at the beginning of this hobby.
Yes, we're sort of, what, 10, 11 months in.
So, right, okay, that is, and for a hobby, that is very new.
Yeah. Well, we're just now. So when I say 10, 11 months in, that's when we sort of moved into the property, and that's where we started doing a little bit with what we had, because there is an established actual garden, flowers and things, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've just literally in the past few days bought a lot of fruit trees to go in, and I've got some raised beds ready to get them all done up. The greenhouse has got some seeds and things in it, so we really are right at the very, you know, literally this is level 1, yeah, the very basic beginnings.
But it shows that actually you can start a hobby at any time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
So what's your intention with it now? Obviously, you said you want to become more self-sufficient. Is this something that you're now sort of planning to get right? Okay, actually, for the next 20 years, this is what I can do, and actually, this is what is it having an impact on your own health? What have you seen the impact so far on it, or have you seen any impact on it so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's quite a lot of various elements of it, because obviously you're outside, which is great. It's forcing you to be out a lot more. There's exercise involved, obviously, the preparation, the digging, and everything else. So there's those elements to it. There's the mental stimulation, as I said, trying to figure everything out. You know, did you know that there are different types of fruit trees that grow to different types of sizes and have to have different types of looking after? But lo and behold, quite a lot of the labels that you get don't actually specify that, and so they give you this kind of weird label that's just sort of suggestive, and then you've got to figure all that. So there's a lot to sort of bite into, and you can spend a lifetime, I'm sure, mastering the art of gardening, and probably still never answer all the questions, because it really is that deep. There's so much of it. I mean, now I understand why people like Alan Titchmarsh and things have become such household names. You know, it really is a whole movement.
So what's your intention for your garden now then? Have you got this image of what, of in the next 5 years, of what your garden's going to look like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The idea is to become one of those people that the neighbours hide from when it's apple season. Like, I say, oh, he comes again trying to fob off another bag of rubbish apples. So the idea is exactly that: is to be able to, over the years, get to a point where we can grow a fair portion of our own sort of fruit and veg, and not just do it, but make it enjoyable as well, and an ongoing process, because that's one of the things with it, and that's an interesting thing, because the payoff isn't now. It's one of those. So if I wanted to borrow chocolate, I go and buy a bar of chocolate. If I wanted to borrow chocolate, but first I had to grow the plants required and then manufacture it and make it, there's a time frame, there's a process, and I think that also is good for the soul. I think having that delayed gratification.
Yeah, and what's the time? So what's your going to be your ideal time frame in when some of these will grow? Are you going to say, right, in a year's time, I'm going to be able to have all this stuff that I can take?
Yeah, well, some stuff will grow quite quickly, so we'll start seeing results. I mean, the winter lettuce has already come through. I've just pulled some of that out the greenhouse this morning. So some of the stuff will come through quite quickly. Things like the fruit trees, so they're going to be a little bit more of an end game, longer game. So we're talking sort of a couple of years before they'll start bearing fruit properly. And so that's in it for the long haul. That is a 20 years from now kind of scenario. Where you've got fully flourishing, really nice tree. So the idea, is just to build in stages and do a bit at a time. Like with everything, you can't just dive in and be an expert. You've got to understand that there are steps to take, and one step at a time. You've got to start simple and build up. So that's pretty much where we're at. So as I said there, the winter lettuces, I mean, they've come along really well, but they kind of look after themselves. But there'll be other things. I mean, we've got garlic in as well, because and that looks really great from my understanding of gardening, which isn't great. So I can see lots of green shoots coming out of it, right? So I'm taking that as a positive right now.
Yeah, as I say, I'd walk into a garden and go, yeah, they look great. I've got no idea what I'm looking for.
No, that's it. Yeah. So like I said, it's a really interesting learning curve. It's actually quite good fun as well. Surprisingly enough, it's actually quite a good feeling to see things starting to sprout and grow and develop, and I can see why people get sort of attached to it and quite addicted to it.
Are you becoming addicted to it already?
I'm gonna say no, but I know at this point I'm probably lying to myself, because I've already been out this morning buying compost and stuff. So
yeah, we'll take that as a yes. We'll take that as it's moving into that direction. But again, I think when everyone talks about hobbies, they have to enjoy it. You have to. It's something that you want to put time in. But as you said, it's all about you and what you get out of it. Because that's what we have, such stressful lives, a lot of people, that actually hobbies, you need to enjoy yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely fundamentally critical to our well-being and how we relate to other people. We need, we need to have that, shall we call it, a release valve, where we can just tootle off and do something else, and just let those cares of the day dissipate, if you like, so that we're sociable human beings to be around.
Yeah. Oh no, completely. And the thing is as well, obviously you've got your martial arts, you've got your garden, you've got your writing. All of those are so good for the mind.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. There's no question about that. They not only do they sort of challenge and stretch you and make you move into things that you may not be that comfortable with. And I don't mean like uncomfortable sitting on a horrible chair. I mean uncomfortable as in you've got to expand your understanding.
Yeah.
And we all had to do that a few years ago to now have these comfortable conversations through this medium. 2 years ago, we're all like, how does that work? So we're all capable of it, and putting it towards something that we enjoy doing seems like a great use of time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think sometimes when people hear the word hobbies, their mind goes to so many different areas, and actually, it's just about doing something for you that you're going to enjoy and will have a positive impact on your life.
Yes, very much so.
Because actually, you haven't got. If you don't enjoy it, well, don't do it.
Well, it's not a hobby, then, is it? It's a job.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you have a job that actually there's that end goal and that purpose and whatever you call that, because you do that. Actually, a hobby is something for you to take your mind off, to go and switch off. And it might, we were talking. I've just started going swimming again. I'm just going down the gym just so I can start the day again. And actually, that's almost becoming my new hobby, because actually I'm just using it to impact my mind, set my day off properly, and actually be in a good place for the rest of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be hours and hours.
Yeah. I mean, you in that respect, you're quite lucky if you're taking up swimming, because essentially a pair of trunks and a pair of goggles, and that's you. You haven't taken up something like cycling, where before you know what's going on, you've remortgaged the house for a new bike.
Yeah, and that's it. It might become cycling at some point, because everyone keeps telling me I need to, because I've got bad knees from a rugby.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I had an operation last year, but I haven't really done as much rehab as I should have done. So I'm like, no, right now, let's get my rehab going. Let's get things done properly. But again, you end up enjoying it. It's a hobby. You meet new people. You're around other people.
Yeah.
And actually, it just has that positive impact on you.
Yeah. Well, that's another really, really pleasant effect that isn't often talked about, is what you just said there with regards to meeting other people and things like that. Because again, I'm bumping into people all over the place, and you're sort of finding different forums and different ways of connecting, and there are people that you wouldn't normally say associate with regards to professional work roles and things, and you find yourself having that commonality, having that common ground, and having a reason to have a conversation. And so it's also really great for just being in and around people, isn't it, and being sociable.
Yeah, no, I love that. So last question, Matt. If someone came up to you and went, I don't have a hobby, I don't know where to start, what would you say to them?
I would probably ask them what it is they're interested in, what floats their boat, what sets them off, because that could be absolutely anything, and it doesn't have to make any sense to you or I, and then sort of follow that, I suppose. So if somebody's got an interest in, I don't know, gaming, for the sake of picking something, I mean, then there are all kinds of avenues of that can be followed. If it's, as I mentioned, gardening with me or swimming or whatever it might be, if you've got an interest in it and a passion for it, then pursue it, have a look for it. And when you get people that say, well, I've got no interest in anything, I don't really care about anything, usually that's not true. Usually there's something, if you pick away at it, and it might be something completely bizarre. But that's fine, because there's a niche, there's a group for everybody these days. There literally is a niche for everything. So yeah, I would say, think about what you enjoy being in and around and talking about. A lot of people get a huge amount of pleasure from football, and they may not play the game, but they just enjoy talking football with their pals. That in itself, I suppose, is a hobby, isn't it? So yeah, so whatever it might be, whatever interests you, sort of pursue that.
Love that. Yeah, and I think it is, and I tend to think that if they're saying they haven't got any interest, what they need to do is go back to what potentially what they were doing as a child.
Yeah.
And just look at the things that they were potentially doing, and also why they stopped them.
Yeah. That's actually a really good suggestion, because again, as we age and we sort of become, I'm not going to use the word important, I'm going to use the word responsibilities. As we gather responsibilities, those sort of indulgences, which sometimes people think a hobby can be, we push those to one side, don't we, in the quest to fulfill our obligations. But actually, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Think back to when you had time before those obligations, and what did you choose to do with that time?
Yeah, because I think sometimes there's a bizarre reason why people stop, and sometimes it is an age thing, and just think, oh, that's not for me to do. but actually it is. It doesn't matter how old you are. There's an activity for everyone.
Totally, yeah, totally, yeah. If you want to crochet My Little Ponies, why should I stop you if you're 64?
Well, what a way to end. What a way to end. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Been a pleasure, mate. I enjoyed chatting.
It's been fun. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and watching or listening, whichever platform you're on. I'm Don Fenton. This is the Power of a Hobby, and I'll see you next time. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.